What is the funniest thing a doctor ever said to you? I had a conversation with a new shrink when I was 12. Do kids ever bully you? He asked. Sometimes, I responded. About your nose? He said. No, I replied. That was when I found out I have a big nose. And the world has not let me forget about it since. Post-exploratory biopsy, following a weird MRI. Well, you're a mutant, but your superpower is dumb. I grew an accessory spleen. Me, with red curly hair, at the obstetrician gynecologist. Your hair is so pretty. Is it natural? The color, or the curl? I'll find out about the color in a minute. We both died laughing. She didn't mean to say it, but, oh my god, it was hilarious. So sad. She retired. My wife and I had our child late in life, and knew we were going to be one and done, so a vasectomy was gonna happen. Where I live, you need a doctor's referral to get one. Coincidentally, my appointment to get said referral was the same week that I started my paternal leave. At my appointment, Doc walks into the room and says, "You've been on pat leave for 2 days, and you already want a vasectomy?" Mine had given me a prescription for 1 Valium to take on the day of the procedure if I was feeling nervous. So, I was there in the room, no pants. The doctor comes in and asks, "Did you end up taking that Valium?" I hadn't, so I said, "No." He shoots back with, "That's okay. I took enough for both of us." I'm a 43-year-old male. Doctor walked in, real fast, head down, went straight to the sink to wash his hands. Said, "I have great news," while washing his hands. "You're pregnant." Turned around, looked at me, and said out loud, "F me, wrong person." Had a nasty throat and tonsil infection, and went to the doctor, who looked in my throat and went, "Ew, that looks gross." I said, "Is that your professional opinion?" And he says, "Yep. That's the grossest thing I've seen in weeks." He was a super nice doctor, and I knew he was just joking. He then gave me some nice meds, and sent me on my way. And it really did look very gross. I have big tonsils. I get tonsillitis and viral throat infections with some regularity. Every time there is a gasp, and then, "You're sure you're breathing and swallowing okay? Your tonsils are huge." And I'm like, "Yeah. They are only a little swollen right now." Docs also often call my throat gross upon inspection. I smashed my left pinky toe into a door frame, hurt like a mother. Went and got it x-rayed, and yep, fractured. A month later, I'm at a routine podiatrist visit, and my toe is swollen, purple, and the toenail is black. I'm explaining to the doc that I fractured it. He looks closely at my mangled little piggy, and says seriously, "Yeah, you're going to lose that toe." What? In about 3 seconds, I went through shock of losing a toe, acceptance of losing a toe, and determination to continue living without a toe, when the doctor says, "Sorry, I mean toenail. You're going to lose that toenail." Gah. I was in the middle of getting a gyno exam. The doc asked what type of birth control I used. I said, "I'm lesbian." Doc says, "That is proven to be effective." My wife was mortified when she had me fill out her new patient paperwork at the gynecologist for her. And under method of birth control, I wrote, lesbian. I swear to God, every time I tell a doctor that, they say, "Well, lesbians can still get pregnant." My dude, I ain't getting any P, what makes you think I'm getting D? I went to the ER, in seriously bad abdominal pain. I couldn't explain it, since everything was seemingly, running fine. Scanned, but fine. As it turned out, I was still massively backed up, almost to the point of impaction. The doctor, who was a good, goofy guy, said, "Ma'am, sorry to tell you, but your diagnosis is that you're full of shit." I cracked up and said, "How long have you been waiting to use that one on a patient who won't complain?" Forever. ETA, since people are, rightfully, confused. I was in so much pain when I got in, that they gave me the morphine before the tests were done. So, they had no idea I was constipated when they gave me the morphine. I was treating a patient who was on his last days. He was bedbound because he had cancer on his spine, but that didn't stop him from having a good sense of humor. I really liked him, and we used to joke around a lot. Anyway, he was having abdominal pain that day, and after turning him on his side, I realized he had shat himself. As soon as I saw it, I just said, "Robin mate, I knew you were full of shit, but this is ridiculous." He started laughing and replied, "You're at my place today, I'm the only one allowed to make those kind of jokes." It's very nice, when you get comfortable enough, to cross a bit that, doctor-patient boundary. Some would consider it unprofessional, but we are still human, at the end of the day. My husband had an enormous inguinal hernia, a hernia that goes into the testicle. When his doctor saw it, he actually dropped his professionalism and blurted out, "Oh my god, what is that?" Which is funny now, but at the time, was a little bit disconcerting. In the cardio way, or was he genuinely shocked? LOL. He was genuinely shocked. The hernia had been percolating for a long time, because my husband has an insanely high pain tolerance, and grew up poor, with no insurance, and my husband had one testicle, basically the size of a small grapefruit. He's fine now, don't worry. Was looking to get a breast reduction, and the plastic surgeon lifted up my breast and dropped it, looked at me, and said, "Yeah, they're heavy." I had the opposite, went in for enhancements, and he told me, "You know, a lot of women say, they're an A cup, but you really are. You have absolutely no breast tissue." Thanks doc. It was funny though, he wasn't being mean. Kinda unrelated, but this reminded me of a dog trainer, saying, "Wow, a lot of people think their dog has separation anxiety, but yours, wow. He really does." Reminds me of the one time, I boarded my dog for a trip. I went to pick him, and he immediately snuggled into me, and the guy goes, "That's the most friendly I've seen him all week." Apparently, he'd been a brat, the whole time. My general physician and I got to talking about kids in general once, and he told me about his friend's son, about 6 years old, who didn't call his older brother by name. He only referred to him as, "This effing guy." I was about to hit the floor. I'd never had a doctor drop an F-bomb around me before. Alright, this is the part where I'm just going to Google it, and we both pretend I'm not. I love that my doctor Googles stuff in front of us, to answer questions or to show us photos of what he's talking about. We don't need to pretend that he is omniscient, or that he just covered the topic in med school yesterday. It makes me more confident that he's going to give the right answer, instead of guessing. When I found out I had latent tuberculosis, my PCP straight up told me she was Googling what meds to give me, because she'd never had a patient with it before. And she spent quite a few minutes going back and forth about what regimen to give me, before she decided on the best one, which actually made me feel more confident in her than if she had just picked whatever one sounded most familiar from med school, way back then. Doctor pulled up my lab tests on the monitor. This was back when they were still formatted for DOS patient data systems, and just basically white text on a black screen. He was paging down and a section came up on the screen, which was bright red text, and had a box made of asterisks around it. He said, "Wow." Me, startled, "Is that bad?" "Doctor, I've never seen a result like this before." Me, "Doctor, I didn't even think this system could use color or make boxes." Me, Oh, okay. So, it's nothing bad then?" Doctor, "Oh, no, it's bad. I mean not horrible, but something we definitely need to address. It's just," makes explosion hand gesture and giggles, "pow. Red. Stars. In your face. Never seen that before." He was actually a remarkably competent doctor, but very very new, and excitable. A few months before my mother passed from cancer, I took her to an appointment with her doctor. He started out by asking the usual questions doctors often ask elderly patients, to check for dementia. "Doctor, what day is today?" "Mom, Wednesday." "Doctor, what year is this?" "Mom, 2017. "Doctor, who is the president?" "Mom," long pause, "Oh. Summerhole." "Doctor, close enough." When the UK had all that malarkey going on, where we had about 4 prime ministers in quick succession, and the Queen died, I was just hoping I didn't get into a serious accident, because there were some days, if you'd asked me who the prime minister was, I couldn't have told you. I fell down a flight of stairs, well, 3 in a row, bouncing off the landings. As a new teacher, thought high heels were a good professional plan. Spoiler, no, they weren't, and cracked the bottom step with my head. Yes, you read that right. The EMTs asked me these, and I was like, look, guys, I don't usually know the day or year, I have students for that. And they laughed. But then when I said, it was Clinton in office, they were like, okay, yeah, maybe she is concussed, it was Obama's second term. I was in for my STD results. Doctor, male 50, bursts through the door, and looks me up and down. Well. Looks like, you've had your weekend of debauchery, and now the cows have come home to roost. Then he opens up the file, and stares at it, and then looks me dead in the eye. Deadpan, you're clear. So, it was only half a regret for you now. Once I went and got a full test, and no one ever got back to me. I pestered the clinic, about 3 times in a week, and the old Chinese lady, doctor, called back, and in the most irate annoyed voice, yes it's clear, okay, yes, but can I have my results? Sigh, no. You don't have HIV, no. You don't have gonorrhea, no. You don't have chlamydia, no. You don't have warts, no. You don't have trichomoniasis, why are you even asking about that? Etc. etc. I was VP at a bank, and managed a spiral fracture in my foot, while playing in a ball pit. The orthopedic surgeon asked, where I'd got that injury. I told him, I'd done it at the City Museum. For those unfamiliar, the City Museum in St. Louis, Missouri is a 12-story shoe factory, that's been converted into the biggest, baddest, backyard fort, on Earth. Slides, tunnels, catwalks, gargoyles, ramps, and an immense ball pit, filled with 10-inch playground balls. The doctor started laughing and said, oh, I love the City Museum. It's put all 4 of my kids through college. My regular gynecologist was called away, so, I had a man, instead of my usual lady. That's always a little awkward anyway, but when I told him, I was getting married soon, he yelled, I love, let me see the ring. So, while my feet were in the stirrups, and he was down there doing, whatever he was doing, I had to hold my hand down, so, he could look at it. Honestly, you had the opportunity for the funniest comment there, though, I get, you probably weren't thinking about comedic potential, at the time. Surely, you can already see it, from there? The doctor was preparing me, for a prostate examination, and said, this procedure, can sometimes, cause an erection. Me, oh, I think that's unlikely, it's never happened to me before. Him, not you. Me. He was a joker, alright. I was out of a coma for a few days, the doctor asked, my name, where am I, etc. Then told me, you were shit on toast, when you first got here. Thanks doc, that makes me feel better. I basically woke myself up, from a coma, and pulled out my breathing tube. The doctor later, apparently wanted to check, if I damaged my vocal cords, can happen, if you just yank the tube out. He checked if I was still awake and asked, can you say something? And I replied with, something. He groaned, and replied, well, at least the humor, is still functioning. Not doctor, but first time I went to my current dentist, and he examined my teeth, it went something like this. Dentist, oh, looks like, you still have all 4 wisdom teeth. Me, yay, never got them pulled. Dentist, yay, and you don't need to, you have a lot of space back there. You actually have a really wide jaw. Me, haha, thanks. Dentist, no, it's not bad, it's just your whole head, is really big. He seemed really excited, about my wide jaw, and big head. My midwife was wrist deep inside me, doing a difficult cervical check, when she suddenly goes, hey your socks match. At the time, I had too many patterned socks to keep track of, so, I usually had mismatched socks at my appointments, so, when I had a matching pair for once, she noticed, during the most awkward moment ever. This is my misunderstanding, of what the doctor, was trying to have me do. He said, hold your breasts, so I did. He said, no, hold your breasts. I was young, and not sure what type of exam this was, so, I was moving them in different ways, to try to, I guess, position them the way he wanted, and he then said, hold your breath. I passed away, that day. Taking son into respiratory clinic, to get tested for asthma, and he was worried about shots. I said to the doctor, no shots today, right? Without missing a beat, he goes, not for him, but I could probably rustle up a couple of glasses, and some tequila. We had never been to this doctor before, but he was awesome. Not to me, but my mom. I was with my mom, when she went to get blood drawn once. She has a lot of anxiety over it, because she has tiny baby veins, and it's always a nightmare. Phlebotomist comes in and says, "Holy Jesus, Mary and the angels, guide my hand," as she's trying to stick the needle in. I totally lost it. Because damn, if you gotta say a prayer beforehand, then this isn't going to be good. It wasn't good. She blew a vein, and had to go get someone else to do the blood draw. My mom had the nastiest bruise I've ever seen, afterwards. My family now uses that phrase before doing something stupid, where we know the outcome is going to be bad, lol. When I was young, and very fit, I had low body fat, and prominent veins. Nurse to one look, and asked if I would let the new one of residents put in the IV. I declined, saying, "Let's just get it done." Then she said something along the lines of, "It's a shame, 'cause I could stab you blindfolded, and still hit those. You would make a great practice dummy." I was a brand new med-surg nurse, and was calling a doc for orders for the first time in my life. I had my SPAR prepped, and a small script memorized. I called the doc, and got my orders. There was a big push, at this time, for docs to enter their own orders. I asked him, "You'll put those in?" He shouted, "You have a better chance of seeing your Lord and Savior, naked, riding a unicycle, on the 4th floor." I was speechless, and instinctively said, "What?" He said, "That means no," and hung up. My preceptor was laughing so hard, and made me share what he said with the whole nurses' station. He later apologized, and didn't know I was new. He was a funny guy after that. I had a cystoscopy a couple years back. I go in for the procedure, I'm in a gown on the table, with my feet up in these like stirrups. The nurse comes in, gives me a breakdown of what's going to happen. She leaves. A different nurse comes in, lifts the gown, washes the area, puts the gown back down, and then she leaves. I'm now damp, cold, naked from the waist down, laying on my back, with my feet in the air, feeling just about as totally exposed and vulnerable as humanly possible. The doctor, whom I'd never met before that moment, comes in. No preamble. No small talk. Says, "Let's see what we've got." Sits down at the foot of the table, lifts the gown and goes, "Yep. That's a penis. I'm gonna put a camera in it now. Try to relax." To this day, I honestly can't say whether it was the best bedside manner ever, or the worst. In that context, it was maybe the funniest thing anyone's ever said to me, and I will never forget it, if I live to 1,000,000,000 years old. Didn't say anything, but I had finger surgery, to have a piece of metal wire places in my finger. I wake up from surgery, to the surgeon being gone, but he had taped a Polaroid X-ray of my finger, post-op to my hand. It was an amusing way to wake up. I had a general practitioner, who was a bit of a jokester, and he was booked to remove a mole from my back. When I got there, he told me he was very sorry, but they were out of anesthetic. The nurse told him off. Then he said, "Nah, kidding, we have heaps. We get the cheap stuff from China." "Doctor, you're about 2 days from pneumonia, why didn't you come in sooner?" Me, "I didn't want to bother you. Doctor, after all these years, you are my best and worst effing patient." He is also my friend, outside of being my primary care physician, which is why he cussed at me, and openly displayed his annoyance, but also my reluctance to bother him, as he sees a lot of self-diagnosed people with nothing wrong with them. Walked over to me and checked my pulse, after I described what I was there to discuss, namely going off meds cold turkey, and unsupervised. After the fact. Looked me in the eye and proclaimed, "You're alive. My goodness, you had me scared I was seeing ghosts there. Do not ever do that again." Same doctor, different issue. Me, "I'm not sure if this is bad enough to see a doctor about." Him, "Well, determining that is different for everyone, but would you like some advice on how to make that call in your specific situation?" Me, "Sure." Him, "The minute you consider maybe calling me, that is a clear sign you should have been here last week, at the latest. I wish I could give you something for your chronic stubbornness, but unfortunately, that doesn't exist, nor would you take it." I went to a podiatrist, foot doctor, about a nail issue. I was lying down on the exam bed, as he was looking at my foot. He said, "You have a really flat foot." I looked up from the bed and asked what he said, as I didn't hear him clearly. He proceeded to lift my foot, by the ankle, and says, "Your foot, it's very flat." And then proceeds to high-five my foot, to prove it. I was going to a fertility doctor, because I had trouble getting my wife pregnant. I had a very, very low sperm count. The doctor was saying to my wife that she has an issue, too. Then he says, "Doesn't help that your husband's guys all know each other by their first names." We fostered and adopted later a girl, but I still chuckle at it, years later. I went to go see a doctor about ongoing bronchitis, and was negotiating about going on antibiotics, which I was not in favor of. Me, "Can't you just give me a shot of antibiotics or something?" They do that to my cat at the vet, sometimes. The doctor, deadpan, "You're not a cat." Due to a certain health issue, I drink a lot of water, so I naturally brought a water bottle to this appointment. End of the appointment, and he can't figure out what's wrong, but is apologetic about that, and sends me for more testing, as well as a referral. So, I'm getting up to leave, forget my water bottle, and he simply says, "Young lady, you forgot your vodka." I've seen way too many doctors, and heard many wild things, but the way he listened and was respectful, followed by this super casual offhand joke, destroyed me. I had a weird growth on my penis a few years ago. It turned out to be MRSA related, but I didn't know that at the time. I went to urgent care, and I was horrified when the doctor who came to see me was a gorgeous young woman, probably just out of med school. She's examining me, and her nurse is in the room watching, because I guess that's a legal requirement in situations like these. The doctor can't diagnose what's wrong with me, so she calls for backup, and it's this older lady doctor. So, now the two of them are literally passing my D back and forth, while this nurse is watching, and I'm feeling completely humiliated, and all of a sudden, I hear the pretty doctor tell the older doctor, "I don't think there would be any benefit to us giving him oral." I must have turned bright red. I knew she meant pills, but I blurted out, "You had to say it like that?" The older doctor kind of scowled, but the other two quickly turned their heads to try to hide the fact that they both burst out laughing. It was me that made the nurse laugh. I was having my second ever pap smear test, I believe, and they said they needed to get the bigger and longer instruments for me, as my cervix was super far back. I replied with something like, "Well, I better close my legs for now, till you find it, or there will be an echo." Poor woman was crying laughing, and I was too, which made it hard to relax, and made us both late for our day. When we were starting, she built hers up to say, "Here we go, go, go." I had a back spasm or something like that, and my doctor prescribed me some muscle relaxers and painkillers. "Doctor, these drugs will make you drowsy and impaired, so you should avoid drinking and driving while on these." Me, "You mean, don't drink and drive ever, right?" Doctor, yay. That too. More the funniest moment I have had with a doctor. Backstory, I don't get embarrassed easy, or at all. Also, my doctor was on the verge of retiring. My husband and I were doing infertility, and going through the process of artificial insemination. He had to, bring his specimen with us, so we could attempt to get pregnant. Well, his body didn't like preforming on a clock, and he couldn't get off, and trust me, you were on a tight clock. So, I was in the office, and I knew we couldn't have sex to get him off, but I proceeded to ask this gentle, more caring and passionate old man if I could help my husband. I turned beet red, basically asking if I could give my husband a bee job to help move things along. And by this point Doc knew me pretty well, and just pat me on the shoulder saying, of course I could help, and laughing with me, as I was truly embarrassed, maybe for the second time in my life. Also doing infertility, in the past 9 days, I have had 7 people inside me, 5 of which were men, none of which were my husband. He got a laugh out of that line, too. Love that doctor. Best damn doctor I have ever had, and made me 2 amazing boys.